Gosh, I wrote that in 1979 in Pine Creek, so how long ago was that? So here I am, a geezer, going back. But, so I'm just going to launch in. As I say, no one has heard this, not even Janie. And I'm going to read, well, I don't want to go too long, but I'm going to read at least 2 chapters and part of the 2nd chapter, and I'll kind of like fill in and leave out the boring parts of the 2nd chapter. This is chapter 1. When the devil laughs, the whole damn world laughs with him. Everyone gets a kick from another man's bad luck. Do unto others, not unto me. The cops wisecracking over my daughter's corpse were all in on the joke. They dug Satan's eternal punchline. This bitch has croaked, and we're still alive to enjoy the show. I slumped on the couch, staring at my shackled hands, dead to the world around me. Gripped by a numb chill, I zipped my leather jacket up over the camera hanging around my neck. The coarse laughter in the bedroom echoed from another universe. "Hey, Angel!" Lieutenant Stern leaned out the connecting doorway. A flashbulb popped behind him. "You got your guns mixed up. The rod between your legs is for fucking. You stuck the wrong one up her pussy." Another flashbulb illuminated Epiphany's body, bloody body on the bed like a bolt of lightning. Wedged into her vagina, my Swiss Smith & Wesson reflected the Speed Graphics' lurid glare. Waves of hatred and rage rose up from the numbness in my gut, but I choked them back, staring silently at Stern, keeping things deadpan. My anger felt raw, like a double shot of bourbon warming the cold deep in my bones. Looking at this square asshole with his dumb black shoes and white athletic socks made me yearn for revenge. As long as I was alive, there was always hope. Sergeant Demos strolled back from the hallway into my living room, a smug smile brightening his 5 o'clock shadow. Calling headquarters to let them know I was in custody must have made his day. He looked like a cheap B-movie gangster in a black overcoat and pulled-down fedora. When I first laid eyes on him 5 days ago, Demos was dressed like a longshoreman. This time I was the one wearing work clothes, dungarees, knitted wool cap, and a war surplus aviator jacket. A pair of handcuffs added a cool contemporary touch to my outfit. "What's the word, Eddie?" Stern asked his swarthy subordinate. "Wagon's on the way. Sooner the better. I want this bastard locked up tight. Too bad the prick don't try and skip so he can save the state some dough." That was it. My gorge rose like a bad case of stage fright. "I'm going to be sick," I yelled, hurrying for the bathroom close by the front door. Nothing like the notion of getting puked on to make the toughest cop duck aside. I slid on my knees across the tile floor to the toilet. I'd left the seat down for Epiphany and slammed it back up in the nick of time, heaving a gut bucket load of sour swill into the bowl. Demas looked away. Policemen grow used to the sight of blood, but vomit makes them queasy just like everybody else. The second wave of nausea provided an additional moment of privacy. I looked up under the ancient porcelain sink at the derringers secured with duct tape to the drain pipe high and out of sight. It was a .38 caliber Great Western copy of the classic Remington Over and Under. I taped it there 7 years back after a heavyweight torpedo roughed me up and pushed me on my ass into the John floor. The gorilla worked for a pair of Wall Street shysters who didn't like me snooping into their grift. I swore the next time trouble came kicking at my door, I'd have a surprise secret weapon. Even hitmen let their marks take a final piss. I lurched to my feet and grabbed the drain for balance as I struggled upright, yanking the little sneak gun free and making my move. After all that time, I got to play my ace in the hole. I hunched over the sink, my back to Demos, and turned on the faucet, making a show of slurping cold water. The stupid flatfoot had no interest in watching a sick man clean himself up. Straightening, I pressed my cuffed hands to my stomach, faking further sickness while concealing the derringer. 2 quick steps took me to the open bathroom door. I stepped close to Demos, showing him my heat, pressing the 2-shot to his middle. Try any cowboy shit, I hissed, and I blow a hole in your liver big enough to push my fist through. Don't be stupid, he whispered. A couple of uniforms loitered in my living room, more interested in rubbernecking at what lay inside the bedroom than keeping an eye on the perp. Out the door, slow and easy. It was only a yard or so, and we were in the hallway together. We strolled at an easy pace, not getting a second glance from the 2 medical attendants bullshitting by a sheet-covered gurney. I guided Demos to the fire exit. Out on the landing, when the door closed behind us, I told him to shrug his overcoat to the ground. "You'll never get away with it, Angel," the detective sergeant said, following instructions. This square was as dumb as a drum solo. "I already have," I said, frisking him down two-handed. I found his service revolver in a waistband holster clipped on the right side inside his trousers and pulled it free. A 5-shot hammerless .38 Smith & Wesson bodyguard. Sweet little Roscoe. My kind of bean shooter. Weighed maybe an ounce and a half more than the airweight Centennial that killed Epiphany. I gripped it in my left hand and shoved the Derringer into the right outer pocket of my World War II flight jacket as best I could with both wrists chained close together. Finding my own personal pair of lightweight aluminum cuffs, I yanked them out. "Put your hands behind you," I barked, jabbing the bodyguard into the small of his back to get the message across. Demos obeyed my orders with no more jive-ass backtalk, and I snapped on the bracelets. Never trust a cop. Playing it safe, I ran my hands down his pant legs, but found no sneak piece. I scooped up Demos's heavy woolen benny and draped it over my manacled mitts, concealing the pistol that made me the boss. "Let's head downstairs," I said. We ankled down 7 flights to the basement without any more gassing. The hotel's shadowy, cavernous cellar housed ancient furnaces and boilers along with a healthy rat population. I never saw any on my infrequent cellar visits, but rodents capered on the subway tracks at night, and this dank crypt looked to be rat heaven. Scattered islands of light pooled in the darkness under bare bulbs hanging from cords. I knew my way around. Monthly leaseholding tenants stored old steamer trunks, unwanted luggage, and numerous sealed cardboard boxes in an obscure corner. A couple quick prods with the Smith & Wesson encouraged Demos to hoof it there on the double. "Kneel," I barked. Demos didn't move. I smacked him upside the head with his own .38, and he bent to the floor easy as a choir boy settling at the altar rail. His grunted curse the closest thing he had in him to prayer. The bulb overhead was burned out, making us just a couple silhouettes among the shadows. I pulled an empty, dented footlocker up behind us and sat down, setting the gun beside me and fishing my key ring from the right outside jacket pocket. I had several picks among my set of twirls. It took less than a minute to pop the cuffs on my wrists. I immediately snapped them on Demos, right above my own pair of S&W Peerless Model 4s. Their key was the smallest in my collection. I found it by touch in the dark and unlocked them. I needed my bracelets back. A good set of nippers always comes in handy. "Do yourself a favor, Angel," Demos said. "Give up while you're still breathing." I'd had enough of his lip. I stood up and shoved his pocket square into his mouth. Before he could spit it out, I unfastened his necktie and wrapped it around his yap as a gag. Time to breeze. 5 minutes had passed, and the boys upstairs probably guessed I was on the lam. The problem was Demos. If I left him behind and he worked the gag free, he'd scream his head off and give me up. I wanted to bust a cap behind his ear, but any gunshot would echo like thunder down in this windowless cavern. The urge to kill him sent a thrill through me like the first time I got laid. I glanced at the dead light bulb dangling above my head and reached for the socket, yanking the cord free from the ceiling in a spray of blue sparks. Demos strained to see what was going on. "No looky-loos," I snarled, giving him a sharp kick for emphasis. A couple quick twists unscrewed the bulb, and I tossed it aside. The cord was about a yard long. I wrapped the socket end around my left hand 4 times and wound the other over my right palm until a 2-foot length stretched between my clenched fists. Demos panted like a dog under his gag. Maybe he found it hard to breathe. It was about to get whole lot harder. I poised silently in the darkness on the toes of my rubber-soled boots, balancing like a cat ready to pounce. And then I was on him, knocking Demos face forward to the floor as I twisted a quick turn of the cord around his throat. The sergeant was a big man, outweighing me by at least 50 pounds. He bucked like a bronco between my legs as I pulled the improvised Garrett tight. Having a handkerchief jammed into his mouth made things easier and muffled his gargled protest. Demos was dead before he dug what was going down. Interesting how death fills up empty space with its stillness. The body felt warm, but nobody was home anymore. Alone in the basement, I searched Demos's clothing in a hurry, coming up with his wallet, a lead-filled leather sap, an unopened pack of double-mint gum, and a lucky rabbit-foot keychain I tossed away into the shadows. My pockets were already bulging, so I shoved the take into the cop's heavy, deeply vented topcoat. I yanked Demos's waistband sheath free off his belt, pushed in the .38, and hooked the rig inside my Levi's, butt first on the left side. Cross draw always suited me best. Packing iron again felt boss. With my bulky, shearling-lined flight jacket underneath, Demos's flogger fit just fine when I tugged it on. His badge was pinned to the wide lapel. I picked up the black fedora. Demos wore a hat several sizes larger than my own, and his lid would have dropped around my ears without the navy watch cap as a liner. Taking hold of the electrical cord ends, I dragged the stiff to a far corner and stacked cardboard boxes and empty suitcases on top. It might be days or weeks before somebody found the dead cop. Let the rat feast begin. Maybe a quarter hour had passed since I blew my pad upstairs, an eternity when making a getaway. I moved through the shadows to the service entrance. The lock was an antique. I had it open in a flash with one of my twirls and stepped out into the dark stairwell, quickly relocking the door. The steps led up to the sidewalk right by the Chelsea's front entrance. I ascended halfway, eye level with the street where I could scope things out through the ornate cast iron railing. A black Mariah sat double parked outside the hotel beside the meat wagon and a trio of cop cars. A pair of uniformed flatfoots worked on their pensions by the glass front doors 10 feet away. Otherwise, everything was quiet, aside from the sparse early AM traffic. I climbed the remaining stairs, stood unnoticed for a moment by the base of twin ornamental columns, and silently unlatched the safety gate, walking west on 23rd Street. Halfway down the block, I unpinned Demos's buzzer and slipped it into his overcoat pocket. Chancing a look back, I saw no increased activity outside the Chelsea. The coast, as they like to say, was clear, and I slipped off into the night, just another stray cat on the prowl. So maybe I should just stop there. I did have another chapter, and then a part of my, but I think that maybe I'll stop there, and if anyone has any questions, I'll try and answer.